Today we're taking a look at the 2026 Divide Series from Prime Archery. Welcome back to Mike's Archery, and today we are looking at the 2026 Divide Series. All these different bows that Prime has come out with for 2026. There's quite a few different variations. We're going to look specifically at two of them, the 31 and the 33, and then we'll talk about all the other options that they're offering for this year. So as we start out, we're going to give you the specs here on the 31 with a 6-inch brace height. It is coming in at 335 feet per second, and there's a caveat to that. That is at 29.5 inches in draw length, because that is the maximum draw length available on that bow. Now the axle to axle on that bow is 31 inches with a brace height of 6 inches, and the advertised weight on that bow is 4 pounds. We took it out of the box. We got a real weight out of the box at 4.6 pounds. As we stripped it down, we got it down to 4.2. Now as we go back and we take a look at the 33-inch model, we're looking at that one with a 7-inch brace height. Now that bow is coming in at 331 feet per second, and it's got an axle to axle length of 33 inches. Now that gives it an overall cam to cam length of 38.25, and matching that up with the 31, it has a 36.25 inch overall cam to cam length. Again, it's a 7-inch brace height. It's advertised at 4.1 pounds, and it is weighing pretty much exactly the same as the 31. So when you're seeing these bows and they're changing all the lengths in them, all those length changes are done here in these carbon rods at the top and bottom of the bow. The riser amount is pretty much staying the same, so you're not seeing any weight gain as you get longer in the axle to axle of these bows, because it's just an extra inch or so of that carbon tubing. Now the draw length options on these two bows, if you're looking at the 31-inch axle to axle, you've got a draw length going in at 25.5 on the bottom, 29.5 at the top. And on a 33 model, you're getting 27 to 31, getting a little bit longer draw length, but you're losing out on that shorter end for you short draw guys. Now all these bows will be available in 50, 60, 65, 70, and 80 pounds. And then you've got their same core cam system that they've had for the last few years, and it is going to be adjustable from 65 out to 83% let off. And you also have the option of a performance mod that you can optionally add to it afterwards to get a little different feel. Now since we've looked at the specific specs on the 31 and a 33 and a 7, I want to take this moment to kind of talk about all the other options that this bow is available in. Prime's idea for this year was to not just give you one bow and that's all you had to choose from. They wanted to be everything to everybody, so you can basically build this bow any way you want it. So the new Divide Series not only comes available in that 31 and 33 axle to axle, but it also comes available in a 35-inch axle to axle and a 37. If you're looking for a much longer bow or even a target setup, you can get it in that axle to axle length as well. Now not only can you do that, every one of these axle to axle lengths, you can get them in a 6-inch brace height or a 7-inch brace height. So if you're wanting to get a little more performance, a little more speed out of it, then certainly pick a 6-inch brace height. If you're wanting more forgiveness, a little better shootability, a little more smoothness, and a little slower, then pick that 7-inch brace height. You'll get those two options and those two worlds that you can kind of mix and match and combine across all these axle to axle lengths on the Divide Series. Now from our standpoint as a dealer, and most of the dealers you walk into, it's probably going to be a little bit difficult to have exactly what you want. So just plan on special ordering something if you're not looking at what they have on the shelf. Because of all these options, it's just going to be difficult to be able to have everything available in our shop or any other shop out there when you start adding color options on top of all these brace height and axle to axle options. Now, the good side of that is, of course, for the consumer. If you really want that 31-inch axle to axle and a short bow, but you want a little more forgiveness and you want that 7-inch brace height and you don't care about the speed, then certainly go there. If you're a little longer axle to axle, a little longer draw length, but you want some performance instead of that longer brace height, then you can obviously throw a 6-inch brace height on that and get a little more speed out of that longer axle to axle bow. So it just allows you to customize this bow to whatever your shooting options want to be. Now as we look at the Divide Series, it obviously looks very much like the Form. It's built off the same platform, the same idea with the carbon rods built into the riser. It's just their new option and their new way to build it. You've still got that advanced structure technology, which is the carbon rods and the aluminum pieces in the exact place where they need to be, creating a stiffer, better structure out of this bow and making it more forgiving. and just a better overall feel and shot. Now you've still got all your integrated options built into these bows. You've got obviously the dovetail on the back to get your integrated rest. You've got pick mount sights built into the riser up front. They've still got that Sherpa quiver system that mounts into it. So you've still got all your basic functions and integrations in this new Divide series. One of the major features that they've changed for this year is the Tri-Light bow stand. You can see it mounted here on the bottom of this 31. It does keep everything up off the ground. It's a nice quick detach up front, just a quick spin and a slide off of a dovetail system there on the front of the riser to get those two front legs off. And then this third leg back here that keeps your cam off the ground screws right into the riser. Makes a pretty nice setup for any blind hunting, or if you want to be able on the target range or in your backyard just to keep your cams out of the dirt and be able to set this bow down and shoot with it. Now some of the other features, they still kept that center grip technology that Prime has had for the last several years, and it just makes these bows hold and point and shoot exceptionally well. Now from there, let's take a look at the color options. You can also mix and match your riser and your limb colors on most of these bows, and for a solid option, you still got their Terra, the Morel, a black or a Recon gray. You can also get that deep red, midnight blue, or the white if you're looking for a target setup. Now you can get camo options in Mossy Oak Bottomlands, the Subalpine, and XK7, as well as the new Osseo Raptor. You can mix and match some of those solids as well as those camos with limb and riser options, except for the deep red and the midnight blue. Those are straight up and you can't mix those with any of the other colors. Now as we look at the price point on these new bows, they try to keep it pretty similar to where they were last year. If you're looking at the 31 or the 33, those are both coming in at $1,595. And then as you move up to the 35, you're looking at $1,645 on a 35 axle to axle. And then that longer 37, you're looking at $1,695 on that bow. So not adding a lot of cost as you get to those longer axle to axles, or if you want a target setup. So overall, a nice price point, keeping it under where you're seeing most of the carbons, and really not a whole lot higher than where we're seeing most of the aluminum bows for this year. And it is a combination of the two with those carbon rods and aluminum pieces. Now as we step back to the lane, we're going to be shooting this bow as usual at 29-inch draw length, and we'll be shooting it at 70 pounds at the highest let off of 83%. We'll give you that rundown from 350 out to a 500 grain arrow and just an overall feel and noise rating on these bows. So we step back here to the lane, and we're going to start with the Divide 31 on a 6-inch brace height. Now we're going to give you the rundown as we normally do at 29-inch draw length, and of course the 70 pounds and then the 83% let off. Again, we're going to do the 31 with a 6-inch brace height to kind of give you the numbers there. And then for a comparison, if you were deciding to do a 7-inch brace height in this bow, you would expect that to be somewhere between 4 and 8 feet per second less. So as you move out and get that longer brace height, just expect to lose, obviously, depending on the model, somewhere between 4 and 8 feet per second. It just kind of depends. But let's get some numbers out of the 31 with a 6-inch brace height here to start with. So this is our 350 grain arrow. And with a 350 grain arrow, we've got 320 feet per second. And then with a 400 grain arrow, with a 400 grain arrow, we're dropping down to 299. And then as we go to a 450 grain arrow here, that's going to drop us down to 283. And then with our 500 grain arrow, that's dropping us down to 272. So overall, pretty solid numbers out of this bow. Again, we're just shooting on 29 inches rather than 29 and a half, so you can get a little bit more out of this 31-inch axle to axle, but overall some pretty decent numbers. And then as we look at the noise rating on the 31, we've got that coming in at 95 decibels. So overall, right there in the middle, nice quiet hunting bow. With this shorter axle to axle, we thought everybody would probably want to see the 6-inch brace height. We thought that was pretty common and comparable to what other manufacturers make, and so those speeds should be comparable. Draw cycle is what you expect out of a Prime. It's pretty smooth. The shorter 31 axle to axle does drop off a little bit heavier at the back. It doesn't stack up through the draw curve hardly at all, so it comes over through everything real nice and smooth, but right there at the end it does give it a little heavier drop off with that shorter axle to axle. Still a great grip, great feel. That center grip technology that we see out of Prime just makes this bow hold. It makes it shoot well, holds on target exceptionally well. Probably one of the better holding bows on the market if you're into that and that's what you're looking for just for accuracy's sake. Prime is right there at the top for that. So overall, great dead in the hand feel out of this 31. So we're going to pull those arrows, switch over to the 33, and give you some numbers out of that bow. All right, so we have grabbed the 33, and again, this is a 33 axle to axle with a 7-inch brace height. Our thought process was as we went to a little longer, more forgiving axle to axle, we'd grab the 7-inch brace height in this option to kind of give you an idea where that one falls. Again, just as a reminder, depending on where you're at, you could get this bow in a 6-inch brace height and possibly gain, 6-8 feet per second over the longer 7-inch brace height. So let's start with that 350 grain arrow and see what kind of numbers we get out of this 33. So the 33 with a 350 grain arrow is getting 310 feet per second. Now as we go up to a 400 grain arrow, so with a 400 grain arrow, we got 294. With a 450 grain arrow, that's going to get us 273. And then lastly, this 500 grain arrow here, and with a 500 grain arrow, we're down to 263. So we're seeing about 10 feet per second, give or take a foot or so between the 33 and the 31. And again, that's with a 7-inch brace height versus a 6. So that's would be the faster version of a 31 compared to a slower version of a 33. But overall, some pretty nice speeds out of the Divide 33. Feels great in your hand. That draw curve, very similar, even though it's a little bit longer. Still got a little bit of a deep valley there in the back end. Sits and holds very well. Rock solid in the back wall as we've seen before out of them. And then as we look at the noise rating on the 33, almost identical to the 31 at 94.8. Right there with a nice quiet hunting bow. Nothing to get excited about. So overall, the 33, you can kind of feel it as it comes over. It might be just a touch smoother. It's definitely going to give you a little more forgiveness with that extra axle to axle length. And if you choose to go with that longer brace height, you're going to see the same thing, gaining a little more stability, a little more accuracy out of that bow and forgiveness. But overall, I think Prime has got a great lineup for this year. Other than the fact that you're probably going to be challenged to get exactly what you want as you walk into a shop, you're probably going to have to order. If you're wanting a 33-6 or you're wanting a 35 and a 6 or a 7, and then you're wanting it in a specific color, you may struggle to walk into a shop and pick that up. So just be aware you may have to wait a little bit if you want something specific and not what's on the shelf at your local shop. But otherwise, they've got an option for everybody, and that's exactly what they wanted to do. That was their plan. It's not an accident. They wanted to be able to make a bow that you wanted specifically for you. So realize that that's what you're getting. It's more of a custom build when you're looking at Prime for 2026. And if you're wanting one of these bows, be sure stop in the shop so you can get a feel for it, shoot it yourself, and of course give us a call if we can hook you up with one of these new Prime Divides.